Okay, are you coming back?
Yeah.
All right, so I think we've just decided.
Solomon said it best from your first remarks. Nothing new under the sun.
Oh yeah, totally. Totally. I think we've just decided we're going to go till like 12:15ish. Between myself and Gil and Adina, we're going to have all that covered. Okay, so, and that way we'll just go until like lunch break. Does that work for everybody? Okay. That works really well for me because I wanted to tell you a few stories and then I wanted us to have a nice, good exercise with the angels. And then my plan is whenever it happens, when I do a session in the afternoon, that's when I really want to talk about relationship. So so that you know where I want to go with this. Tell you some stories, have a heavenly experience. Sometime afternoon before we're done at 3, we're going to get into knowing them, and we're going to discover that a little bit. Okay. When I was getting to know the angels, one of the ones that I immediately really liked, I knew first off as Marshall. And Marshall, I always saw him from the first moment. He looked so watery and cloud-like, and he was carrying this lightning bolt-like sword. I mean, he looked like a storm. And the first time I met him, I knew he's a warrior, he's aggressive. If I need help, ask him, he's the one that'll go get it. Now remember, I talked to you about Paladin, this virtue that is patience. He's the personification of patience. By the way, Paladin means virtuous knight. And I saw him dressed like a knight, and of course he's a virtue. I thought that was cool the way that worked out. You sometimes you get these names and you really have to trust the first impressions. You can't write stuff off or you might miss something really cool. I remember being on a walk one day in Colombia, and I walked by this grove of old pine trees. Pine trees are old trees. And I see this green angel as tall as the pine tree standing in this grove, and he just gives me a little wave. And so I walk along and I give a little wave, and then I just keep walking. And then I do my walk. I'm walking around the neighborhood, having a little exercise, come back through, he gives me a little wave again. And so I go, all right, who are you? I'm Christopher, who are you? He says, I'm Prosaurus. And I was like, Prosaurus? That's nothing that sounds like it's got to do with trees. Sounds like some dinosaur, And he says to me, word for word, not an exaggeration moment, he says, when you get inside, just Google it. And I was like, all right, finish my walk, get on. And I sometimes just kind of have a knack for how would I break up this name to delineate it. I figured Oris, and then P-R-I-S as pris as a prefix, Oris suffix. Oris had a kind of Semitic root that meant tree. The P-R-I-S is the beginning of our name Priscilla, where it means ancient and venerated. And of course, pine trees are technically older trees. They're the ones that were kind of around before the deciduous trees were there. So, ancient or venerated tree. So you just kind of have to roll with it sometimes, All right, so I'm getting to know Marshall. He's the personification of the storm. And I loved, Columbia, South Carolina, you get good storms all the time. Summers, I'm moving to Gainesville. One of the most exciting parts to me is the thunderstorms. I'm bring it on every day, Because I feel like I meet him there. Do you remember? This is the old, 98% of human history. They were meeting these things in the various phenomenon of nature. And so, I would go for walks and there'd be these thunderstorms. And the more you get to know these angels, the less that they are those heavenly butlers that all look the same and they're like robots with all the same personality. And they become less and less like that. And the more that you get to know them, it seems like the bigger and more powerful they become, as they are the personification of the various phenomenon of creation. And so as I'm getting to know Marshall, it's like the more we get to know each other, he grows. And I remembered I used to keep this big artist sketch pad, and I would draw everything. I mean, I'm not an artist. It was bad. But I would draw it almost like keeping a file on every angel that I was meeting. Again, nerd moment. But just like drawing the diagram of my home, it's like I wanted to take the work out of that so that when I was with them, I could just be with them, So I'd do a drawing, I'd write everything I would learn, their name, what it meant, on and on. And So as I'm getting to know Marshall, in the beginning, I just drew this picture. He looked watery and cloudy, and he was, but the more I got to know him, it's like the bigger he gets. And I would go on these walks in the summer, and there would be some cumulonimbus cloud building in the distance. I got one, good. Cumulonimbus, the thunderstorm cloud, yeah. Cumulus, big puffy. Cumulonimbus incus. We get the anvil on the top, where it starts to spread out. Now I'm really just having fun. Okay, so can you imagine my kids and what they have to go through every day? Kids, what are those clouds, They know stratus, cirrus, cumulus. Anyway, so these big thunderstorms building, and I would see him in them. And the more I got to know him, he would tower. I mean, he's be 30,000 feet tall. The height of the thunderstorm, and I would see him in this robe that was like, that gray blue of the storm, and it was swirling, and he had this crown with these lightning bolts on the side that looked like glowing bronze or something like that. And there's a moment where you go, whoa, 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 whoa. You're starting to look a little big, And I'm starting to get why there were versions of you that people worshipped before. Because you're immensely powerful. And I see it now. I see the Jupiter-like crown. And I'm getting there, and I'm like, I think I need time out. I need to go talk to Dad. Like this is a moment right here, and I don't want to mess this up, So I remember seeing him like this and feeling like, I don't want to cross a line. I don't want to get into the worship of angels, So I'm just seeing him. I'm on my walk, big thunderstorm. I'm kind of ignoring him. I'm walking back to the house, and I see him, it's like, you can imagine looking up at this thunderstorm cloud, and it's like he's in it, in this cape, like of the storm wrapped around him, and it's like he's peering down from 35,000 feet with that lightning bolt crown. And I remember thinking, I do not want to fall off the deep end here, And then he starts talking to me. He says, Chris. I said, yes. He said, have you been to the Grand Canyon? I was like, yes, I have been to the Grand Canyon. He said, were you in awe of the Grand Canyon? I was like, yeah. He said, did you worship it? I said, no. He said, Chris. I said, yes. He said, when people do things for you that are nice and they help you, are you thankful for them? I said, yes. He said, did you worship them? I said, no. He said, so awe and thanksgiving must not be the definition of worship. You guys are like, no, what? Okay. Awe and thanksgiving must not be the definition of worship, or you would do it every time you went, wow, or thank you. Now, if I could give you a next age definition of worship, I might define it as this. Please don't take me too seriously. It's a guess. It's a guess. I would say any activity that acknowledges in whose image you were made. Any activity that acknowledges in whose image you were made. So if I was looking up at Marshall in the thunderstorm and I thought, you have created me, obviously that's worship. But to be in awe of the power there and to be thankful for how he helps me and strengthens me and encourages me, not worship. That was a really good point for me to continue to move forward in relationship. Now, a fun story with Marshall that I like to tell, I think I wrote this in Palaces. But remember I told you about going to D.C. and meeting that thing there because I was meant to go there to do premarital counseling for this couple. I was going to officiate their wedding. Well, now, fast forward in the story, I'm officiating their wedding. Okay, in downtown Baltimore, in like a courtyard amongst all of the big buildings. Now, it's a summer wedding. It's outside, of course, like 4 p.m, forecast for the day, sunny until right about 4 o'clock afternoon, we're big thunderstorms, okay? So, I'm like, we're playing this off, it'll be fine, So we get there, and they're setting up, and of course I'm there early, and it starts to look like the conditions are deteriorating. Like you can see the clouds building, all around. We start the ceremony. Everyone's seated, the bride and groom come out, wedding party's there, who gives this woman, all that sort of stuff. And you can tell, that moment, you can feel it in the air. You're like, it's about to happen, Like any good wedding officiant in that moment, I have created like a 5-second ceremony in my head to be like, do you kiss her? Let's go. Because if it starts pouring rain, we're going to get through this thing, And so there's this moment after that introduction where there's some worship music. Now they were getting married like under a Jewish huppah, the 4 poles and the canopy. All right, so I'm like, while this music is going on, I get to kind of scoot back and stand with the people, and they're up there, and the wind starts picking up, and the groom is having to reach out and steady the huppah. This is not an exaggeration alert, by the way. I'm going to relay the story to you exactly as it happened. So he's reaching out to steady the huppah, and I feel the first drop of rain go boop right on my nose. And so I picked up the red heaven phone, the emergency phone, and I was like, who do you talk to? Marshall, right? He's the personification of the storm. So I picked up the heaven phone, and I was like, Marshall, need some help right now. Now, no one can see me doing this, thankfully, but I'm mumbling to myself, just like I tell you to do. And I'm there. No one can see me. I'm doing it so no one knows. And I see Marshall come right down in front of me, and I said, Marshall, I need help right now. He looks at me and he goes, it will not rain. And then I watch him go up, and he perches himself on one of the buildings, one of these 10, 12, 15-story buildings around this courtyard. And then I watch his friends come down from the cloud, and they all perch themselves all on these buildings around this courtyard, and they're just perched on the ledge like looking down. I kid you not, it didn't rain, and a hole opened up in the clouds, and those crepuscular rays, that's a fun word, those crepuscular rays shined through that hole in the clouds and illuminated the huppah. This is not an exaggeration alert. And I was like, this is awesome. We did the whole hour-long ceremony. Never interrupted. Did the whole thing, never rushed anything. Did my whole sermon that I was so proud to do. Did everything, kissed, now pronounce you. And then off they go. And I'm the wedding party files in behind them. And I'm dismissing the people to go to the reception. And it opens up. Down goes the rain. I mean, like a burst. It rained. It just opened up in seconds. People are like scrambling to get out. I mean, the huppah's blowing over. I'm trying to save the little china set that they took communion off of. So it's blowing off the table. I grab the china set. No joke. The huppah blows over, and the pole smacks me in the back of the head, right like that. At which point, I looked up at Marshall and went, in the natural, really? No joke. No one was there. They're all running inside. I mean, but I did it. I looked up and I was like, really? And he looks down at me and he goes, were you hurt? I said, no. You ask for an hour, you get an hour. I mean, you wanted an hour and a half? Ask for an hour and a half. Listen, it was such a cool experience because I recognized, you're here, and even letting it open up when we were done was just another acknowledgement. Yeah, you're there, you're in this, So what I want to do right now, I want you to have a chance to talk with some angels, and we're just going to kind of get started here. And then this afternoon, we'll do a little bit more to try to build the relationship a little bit. But I want to give you an opportunity to meet them as a function of life, as a personification of a phenomenon of nature. Okay, now, and I know I'm like off the beaten track here, but I can tell you this, it's historical. I'm not in the bubble saying this, but I am really tied to history. This is where all of this is coming from. And that's why I gave you Emily Dickinson poems. And I referenced to you Ralph Waldo Emerson. If you really want to blow your mind, go get his essays from the library and read. It's a lot to read. Don't read it all. Just read his essay on nature. And Emerson says essentially, we can tell our distance from God by how much we don't understand the notes of birds. The fox and the deer run from us. The tiger and the bear rend us. We know the uses of but a few plants. The vine, the corn, the wheat, things like that. Do you see, to him, to Emerson, you can keep your iPads. It doesn't mean anything. What would mean something, what kind of technology, if such a word even applies to this, would mean something is, do you understand the notes of birds? Do you know so much of what we've made since the scientific revolution, none of it's an improvement. You know, it took 5,850 years of recorded human civilization to go faster than a horse on land. 5,850 years to go faster than a horse on land, and that was the creation of the steam engine, or the iron horse. But it only took 100 to go from the steam engine to orbit. Something's happening. It's an acceleration. But nothing that we've done is an improvement on the things that God's done. We've made a bunch of clocks. They're not an improvement on the cosmic clock. We've made it to where you can go real fast, but we've never improved on the horse. How? How is that possible? Because when God does something, it works and it is beautiful. And if you're looking for a principle of what life is like in the next age, what we create must work and it must be beautiful, and you cannot sacrifice one for the other. You give me the nicest Mercedes that people are like, now that's a beautiful car. Put it up on jacks. Look underneath it. Stick your hand up there. Pull it out. Looks like it's been in hell. You can only hide the fact that it's ugly. But as a machine, it is horrible. Have you ever watched an internal combustion engine work? There's nothing elegant about it. It's a fight against nature. Think of the old steam engine, the iron horse. It was a fight. Think about the people, the poor men. And I know that we think the locomotive, it's nostalgic. Oh, remember every country song about the train, you know, and the sound of the whistle blowing. There's nostalgia there. We think, oh, it's beautiful. Look at the guys that ran the train. They looked like they had been in hell. Black faces. Yeah, seriously. And I'm not, listen, if you're a train engineer, I'm not picking on you. This is not what I'm doing. We're all in this boat together, folks. I'm just telling you, the way forward is not what we're doing, and it's not go backwards. It's something new. But whatever that new is, it has to work, it has to be beautiful. Horses work. And they're beautiful. We've never improved on it. We just went faster. We valued the function more than the beauty. But that's the principle of the scientific revolution. Let's overpower nature with our technology. That is not the principle of this next age. You still with me? I don't know why I'm on that soapbox. Where was I going with that? I was going somewhere. Does anybody remember? What was I going to do? Were we just going to go to heaven? Is that what we were going to do? Meet angels. We should probably do that. Okay. I think maybe I'm bringing all that up just to say there are so many varieties here, and I just want you to get a chance to interact with them. So let's have a stand here. Let's get Catholic. Stand up, sit down, kneel. Have a moment. Do you need a calisthenic moment? Are you good? Okay. You're like, no more calisthenics? Take a deep breath, breathe in the peace. Breathe out the freak out. There's probably a lot to breathe out. Okay, breathe in the peace again. Now, do you remember yesterday going to the Silver Tree? I want to go back there. Now I'm going to describe it to you again. Just remember, go with your memory if you remember it. Imagine this tree growing out of the ground, and its trunk, it looks like it's made of something almost metallic. Silvery, reflective, almost translucent. It twists, that trunk twists as it grows up, and then it spreads out its branches. It's silver branches, and then you look up in the tree and there are these orbs, these glowing, luminescent, not bright, but luminescent orbs of these pale, almost pastel-like colors. Down, if you look down the trunk, you see all around the trunk is this mossy ground cover. It's not grass, it's this short, thick moss, about like 8 or 10 feet radius on either side of the tree. Perfect circle. And then around that is this paved walkway. And there are some benches to sit on around that paved walkway, around and under this tree. And of course, there's pathways out from this circle into other parts of this particular garden. And all I want you to do, just like before, is locate yourself in that picture. And again, if you're new today and you haven't done this with me, what do you have to lose for the next 20 minutes? I promise you'll be okay. Just throw caution to the wind. Take your first guess. Where do you see yourself in this picture? First impression. Don't write anything off. And I'd love for you to participate. So if you'd raise a hand and I can call on you, you can tell me, where do you see yourself right now? Fred? Sitting on one of the benches looking up at the tree. Who else? Raise a hand for me. Adina?
Leaning against the tree.
Leaning against the tree. Yes, ma'am, with the hand right there.
My bare feet on the cool moss, touching the tree, looking up at the orbs.
Bare feet, cool moss, touching the tree, looking up at the orbs. Gil?
I'm already standing on the path looking, waiting for Jesus.
Standing on the path and looking, you're like, I know what Chris is going to do. So let's just... Jesus, can we just skip this and get to the point? Okay, yes, ma'am.
I actually am floating,
You're floating, and why not? Yeah. Very good.
because I don't usually float.
Okay, right. Well, you do today. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Growing up, I had a favorite tree,
Yeah.
and I was always on the third branch up.
Yeah. That's where you are here. One more. Raise a hand. One more, I'll call on you. Don't be shy. Yes, ma'am.
Standing under the tree waiting.
Standing under the tree waiting. Now let's go through some senses. Smells. Your first impression of what the place smells like. Don't write anything off as being silly or unspiritual, and please take a wild guess. Sometimes I even ask you to take the passivity away of this experience. I'll say, what do you think it should smell like? Because your imagination already knows. Just like when you imagine an angel, your imagination already knows how to dress them, not according to life after the scientific revolution. Yes, what do you smell?
Sweetness like cotton candy.
Sweetness like cotton candy. Yes, ma'am, Elizabeth.
Orange tree blossom.
Orange tree blossoms, yes.
Rain on warm stone.
Rain on warm stone. Yes, ma'am.
I smell wood as soon as you said that.
Wood. You can smell the wood smell. Yes, ma'am, right there. Bananas. You're not going to be wrong unless you say trash. This is easy. You can't mess this up. Give me one more. Yes. Jasper. Say it.
Jasper.
Jasper. Did I hear that right? Awesome. Now, sounds. Sounds. What do you imagine you hear? First impressions, first guesses. Crickets. Raise your hand for me. What do you imagine you hear? Oh, right back there, I see him. Seagulls. Fred? Singing. Through the branches. Was there one up here again? Who had a hand up? Anybody? Yes, sir? What do you got?
Birds and a stream.
Birds and a stream. Someone yesterday was here in that same thing. Yes, ma'am.
Cooing doves.
Cooing doves. And then one more? Yes.
Bells ringing.
Bells ringing. High pitch or low?
High.
High pitch. Okay, now, I'm not going to go through touches too. I just wanted you to activate these senses. Now, let's find out where the Lord is. Now, again, I'm fine. You can talk to whatever part of the Godhead you would like to. You can talk to your older brother, your Messiah, the King of the Kings. You can ask him to be there. You want to talk to Dad? Find Dad. You want to talk to, if you're okay with it, Mother. Go talk to Mother. But whatever you do, that's fine. Just find out what part of the Godhead you need to meet with. Locate that, first impressions, and then get close. Just get close. Now, if you're close, good. Of course, you can be having a conversation. If you're not and you need a few more moments, raise your hand so I know to pause. Everybody's eyes are closed, so they're not going to see you. Okay, I'll just give a few more moments there. A few people just need a little bit more time to get close. Trust your first impressions, and none of you are moving your lips, which means I'm going to go around with my heavenly ruler and slap your wrists with them. Your knuckles, like in Catholic school. Mumble to yourself, people. Trust me on this. Mumble to yourself. Tell yourself what you're seeing. Tell yourself what God is saying. Tell yourself what you're saying back. Tell yourself what you see yourself doing. Tell yourself everything you're experiencing. Now, what I want you to do is look at whoever you're talking to here, and I want you to say, Lord, Dad, Mom, whoever, would you introduce me to the angels that are closest to me right now? Mumble that to yourself. Would you introduce me to the angel or angels, doesn't matter, singular, plural, that are closest to me right now? Please trust your first impressions. Don't write it off. Don't be the traffic cop in your mind. What was your first impression of what happened? You don't have to tell me. Just hang with it on your own for just a minute. How many? Is it 1? Is it 5? Just show of hands. How many is it? 1? How many is it less than 5? How many is it more than 5? How many is it more than 50? Okay, good. Yeah, there's always a few. Okay. First impressions. And just having a sense of how many presences are there. That's like first step. And I want you to notice color, clothing, expression, things like that. Now this is going to be fun. You can ask God to do this for you, or you can ask the angel directly, but you can say, what is your name? And trust your first impression. If it's like Stu, trust it. If it's Bob, trust it. If it's some weird name like Zeraline, trust it. Just don't write it off. Just go with it for right now. You don't have anything to lose here. First impressions. If you don't know if you heard it right, look at Jesus or look at whoever and go, hey, did I get that part right, or did I hear that okay? But trust the first ones. Once you feel like you have a name, hold on to that, write it down if you want to. But let's ask another question. You can say, what part of creation are you? Just ask, see what that angel says. Trust it. If it's something I've mentioned, great. If it's something different, that's fine. What part of creation are you? And then take a guess. Another fun question is, where would you like to meet with me? Is there any place, is there any scenario that you would like me and you to interact? Since this is the angel that's closest to you, these can just be fun questions. Another fun question is, how would I know that you're near? And then when you feel like you've got a few of those little statements, you're having a little conversation. We're going to do this more today, so don't worry. But let's just have a farewell. Thank you. It's very nice to meet you. Thank you for being close to me. Thank you for helping me. You can tell the Lord, thanks for introducing us. Anything that you want to do here, thanks for the chat. And then when you feel like you're done, you can sit down in your seat and open your eyes, and I'll kind of know you're back here. Now, I wish I could let everybody tell us, but can I just get 2 or 3 people just to give me the headlines? You know what I mean? Like, just tell me just the headlines. Like, I saw this angel, it looked like this was the name, something like that. You want to go first back there? First?
I have to tell you, it's not like an angel I thought, okay?
Okay. Well, that's good.
Weird to me.
Yeah.
It was a frog's eye.
It was okay, keep
Frog
going.
named Fred.
Frog named Fred.
A turtle named Matthew.
And say that again?
It was a turtle
Yeah.
named Matthew.
I'm loving this right now.
It was a snail called Garth.
Yeah.
It was a Goliath tree.
Yeah.
It was a I can't even say this right, Hippostomal worm.
Okay.
And they want to meet me in my garden.
Oh, I love it. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Yes, ma'am.
I had a earth angel.
Something that personified the earth.
Oh, you gotta hear this.
Wait, hold on 1 second. We'll get there. We'll get there. No, go ahead. Okay. 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 We got it.
Okay, I met an earth angel, and I asked the name,
Yeah.
and it was Earthina or something like that. And I asked where she wanted to take me, and she said to the beach.
Yeah.
And so we went to the beach, and we sat on the beach, and I felt the sand, and I always loved to do that.
Yeah.
And the warmth of it, just the whole bit of it.
Yeah.
That
Very
was it.
good. Very good. Excellent. Okay. I have one more. You want to go back there? Can someone come back there and meet you? Hold on.
I don't need a mic, actually. I'm a shofar.
Well, I thought it was really funny because she says, Garth was who for you?
Snail.
My personal angel's name is Garth,
Right on.
and it means garden.
Awesome.
And she's supposed to meet in the garden with all these creatures.
Oh, I love that.
So, and God had shown me her green earlier that was going to do something. But
Oh, I love it.
but this is so weird too. So the 2 angels that I met,
Yeah.
the first one was named Mezuzah.
Yeah. That is something, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. It's the thing on the door. Yeah.
Well,
okay.
then I forget the questions, but the
That's okay.
the bullets, something to do with scrolls.
Well, yeah, that would make sense.
Was the angel over the forest?
Yes.
Told me to meet him in the library,
Right on.
and I would know he wanted to talk to me when I heard the sound. This is wild because when I hear the sound of fluttering paper,
Cool.
like the edges of a book.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is that Antiphone was the other one.
That's going to mean something as well.
Yeah, Antiphone, and I saw a long trumpet,
Yeah.
the bell of the trumpet. He's a herald of some sort.
Yes.
Angel of the airwaves.
Yep. Probably personifying that decree, that declaration. Yeah. Keep
Right,
going.
and that I would meet with him when I saw clouds, and this has been a theme for me: the confusion of seeing and hearing.
Yeah.
So the scroll that you would read or see something, I get a sound to meet with them, and the stuff usually you hear, I see something.
Yeah. Right on.
So it's like
yeah.
interesting.
Your wires are crossed. Right.
Yeah, I've done that a long time.
Right. That explains a lot. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's excellent. Now, again, I wish we could hear from all of you, okay? But I'm just trusting that you can talk over lunch. You can swap stories. You can share everything that's happened. That's just kind of getting started. And, why would we take time to do that, right? If you buy anything that I've told you about the next age, if you buy anything that I've told you about nature and creation, you can't rule what you don't know. So we have to start somewhere to getting to know that This world, truth doesn't end with the objects. For them to have meaning or essence, there's got to be a connection to what's on the other side of that veil. And that's just what you're practicing right now. And again, if you're like, Chris, that's not for me. Like I really want to, I'm still in on like the Pisces commission. Like I still want to get out there and go out and baptize and tell and in making disciples and do that sort of thing. What do you think I would say to that?
Awesome.
Good for you. Would you please do that job, and would you finish it well, and could we support you? There's one's not better than the other. But if any of you are feeling that thing where you're like, you're astronomically in the transition between ages, astronomically speaking, but if you're like, I'm feeling the pull into this next commission, this next spiritual life and practice, this next thing, well, then that invites the kinds of things that we were doing today. Doesn't make you better. Doesn't mean that everyone's got to do it. It's just if it's your job, great. It'll be fun to work this out. Okay? I'm going to be done until this afternoon, and we'll take it one more step before we finish.
All right, so we're going to break for lunch in just a few minutes. And I'm going to ask if we can all get back here a little earlier. So we're going to encourage you to shoo you out really quickly to go get lunch. And if you're not from around this area, if you go out Melody Lane over here to Kirby Way, and you make a right and you go across the freeway, it's maybe another half mile or so. There's an intersection at Sunrise and Kirby, and there's a lot of restaurants around